Hello everybody, my name is Rick Goodman, and today I was going to be talking to you about the truth about transforming from skinny to strong. Before we get heavy duty into this, I just want to let you know, my name is Rick Goodman. I'm the creator of Vexick Fitness on YouTube and on Instagram. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you want more great content just like this. Let's hop into it. So, like I said, today's video I was going to be talking about what it's like transforming from skinny to strong, or at least from skinny like how I was to a bit bulkier like how I am now. It doesn't really look like that with this shirt on, but you know, I digress. So anyways, as a kid I started out naturally as like just a thin person. I was not ever really like a shredded kid, but I was also not really fat or anything like that either. I started out not exactly a runt or scrawny, but I've been pretty skinny my whole life. Even my genetic test says that like I'm naturally predisposed to be a lot thinner than the average person. So the thing is that I originally started weight training around the time I was 13. I believe I was 13 and a half, you know, and the reason I started was because, was it 13? Yeah, it was 13 and a half, just before 14. The reason I started was actually because I got picked on in school, and at the time I knew karate at least a little bit. I had done about 2.5, maybe 3 years of it at that point. But the problem is that I was just not strong. I was just not a super strong individual. So the thing is about becoming a lot stronger, especially when you start off skinny, is that you start off skinny, or you know, relatively speaking weak like I did, is that I started off life, you know, I was really fast. That was like the one thing I was really good at. I was a bit more flexible than I am now, but I've never been super flexible. I've never been like double jointed like some people, and I definitely didn't start off super strong. But compared to like how I am now, like then, I am definitely a lot stronger. Anyways, so I started off weightlifting with my dad, and basically all he taught me was you just get the bar. I remember the first time he showed me his weightlifting bars that he used with my grandfather when he was younger. It was just a regular curling bar. He had weighted collars and he had weights on top of them. And I believe I tried lifting the bar, which is 45 pounds in and of itself. I tried lifting that, and it had, I believe, 10 pounds on it, so that's 65 pounds. And I was trying to curl it, and I was struggling so much. And you know, my dad saw me with the first rep. He told me, "Okay, now just set it down." And I told him like, "Yeah, but I can lift it." And he was like, "No, you can't," and that's fine, you know. But what we have to do is we have to get you strong enough that you can lift just the bar. Like just start out with just the bar. So we started out with the bar. He gave me 4 simple exercises to do. The first was regular curls, right? Just curling bar curls. The second was overhead press. The third was behind the neck press. And the last was upright rows. So for about 3 to 4 months, if I remember correctly, we were purely just doing that. And I went from doing that with 45 pounds. I believe the bar is 45 pounds. It might just be 35. It might even be as low as 25, but I started out with that, and I worked my way up to 65 pounds, and he would have me do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. And when I was doing that, you know, I gradually got a lot stronger. I was like naturally skinny. I was never one of those super shredded kids, but after a while, I just started working up upper body. And since I was at school running all the time, we never really focused on lower body. He would just make me do body weight squats for the most part. But this was a good way for him to get back into weightlifting as well. So we did that. I was lifting with him, and I started packing on size, like just a little bit. But at the time, the change was so drastic that I was doing a lot of things way easier than I used to do it. And one of the things he had pointed out to me actually was the fact that we had a glass door, you know, from the kitchen to the backyard, and as a kid, like I had to constantly use my whole body to move the door forward and back, and it didn't move that easily, so I kept closing it. But the thing is, I kept closing it and it closed normal. But once I started putting on weight, I kept using my whole body to close it, to open it and close it, and that caused it to basically slam against the door frame. And he had told me to stop doing that, and I was like, yeah, but I can't really lift it that much. And he's like, yes, you can. The thing is, you're packed on a lot of size and you're still doing the same things that you did before. And I didn't even realize that. And he'd point out that was the reason why I was slamming the door. And it sounds stupid when I, in hindsight, but it's really one of those things where you, especially with weightlifting, you start to get a whole different approach to life when your body and your physique start to change. You know, when you can start lifting way heavier things, it really changes your mentality. Because I remember when I worked at my last job, I can't really talk much about it, but I was a technician. I can't talk about it in detail, but I was a technician at an aerospace company, and we worked on the landing gear. We had 4 different types of cylinders that we had to do for jets. The specific type of jet that I worked on, I'm not sure if I can say it, so I'm not going to say it here. But the units were all pretty small. They were like 35 pounds, it was like 35 pounds all the way up to 90 pounds or 89.7 pounds. I remember that number specifically. So that unit was called the CV unit. And I'm pretty sure I can talk about that if I say it out of context. So that was the biggest unit that we had. And I remember when I first started there, it was just before I started doing powerlifting. I've done weightlifting for years. That's the main thing I do when I go to the gym. But this was when I specifically started doing powerlifting, and I packed on about 10 pounds of muscle, you know, which changes your life very drastically. So I used to pick up these units, and it would be a struggle. You had to get 2 people to do it. And for the 89 pounds, or at least that's what they would tell us, because, you know, they don't want anybody to injure themselves, lawsuit, etc. But the thing is, when I started packing on a lot of weight, and specifically when I got my bench to about 225, at least the 200s, you know, regularly, and I got started doing that for reps, I was able to grab those CV units. It's pretty big and awkward, so it's like I have to grab it out here. I could pick those up and then move them by myself, and that was a common thing with those of us who do powerlifting or do like farmers, you know, that legendary farmer strength. They can definitely move objects, especially in very awkward positions. Where was I going with that? So the thing is that when you start weightlifting in a specific type of way, and specifically powerlifting, life becomes a lot easier when you pack on a lot of muscle. You know, you get a lot of, as a guy, you get a lot of attraction from girls, you get a lot of acknowledgement from guys. People might be less willing to confront you. It very much depends. I think that's more of something that comes from the martial arts aspect of it rather than the powerlifting aspect of it. But, and then if you mix the two together, you can definitely become like a strong warrior type person. Anyways, back on the unit, I was able to pick up those units and then, you know, set them, walk a few feet, set them on the cart, move the cart all the way to where we had to get them spray painted. And they would ask, like, the guys over in paint, they would ask if I needed any help lifting it. I would just go over, pick it up off the cart, and then go and set it on the shelf, you know. And it really stunned a lot of people, and they would look at me and say, yo, do you work out? Like, that's one of the biggest flexes, that when people start to notice that you're getting bigger when you're working out, and when you're able to lift things that a lot of people can't lift. Granted, in the grand scheme of things, I know 89 pounds or 90 pounds is not super impressive as far as powerlifting goes, or as far as like farmer style workouts go, but it was definitely something that I found to be very prominent in my life when I started lifting weights at a very heavy standpoint. And again, it was one of those things where one of the guys who was constantly being a doomer and a downer about everything, he would see me pick those units up and then, walk over to the desk and set them down, or walk over to the cart and then set them down on my own. And he would say, "Oh, you're going to be crippled by the time you're going to be crippled by the time you're 30, And I'm like, no, I won't. You know why I won't? Because I've seen men and women who go into their 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, lifting stuff or walking around. They're totally fine. And I think it's because it really depends on how well you take care of your body. That's why it's important to stretch. That's why it's important to use heat, to use cold. That's why it's important to roll out your muscles, why it's important to eat the right foods. If you're just not doing any of the right things and you're just lifting heavy shit all the time, that can work. But the problem is that eventually your body can wear and tear after a long time. Not to mention, a lot of those people who did powerlifting, they used to do heavy weights, and they might have gotten badly injured, and that's why they stopped. Or they might have stopped completely and suddenly, and that's the reason why they can't really lift as much, is because because your body is used to such a high intensity of weight, and when that weight is taken away, or when that lifestyle is taken away, it starts to immediately digress, So that's why when you're powerlifting is one of those sports that can be very dangerous if you're not doing it properly and if you're not training properly. But as long as you train your joints, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and other things that, contribute to your longevity, you'll be totally fine. You should be fine in the long run, But those are my thoughts on becoming skinny to strong, and how I think it very much changes your life. I think it's one of those things where, people need to not knock it until they try it. And, it's one of those things where you just have to try it yourself, especially if you're naturally skinny like me. You have to keep pushing. You have to go outside of your comfort zone with a weight that you may or may not be able to move periodically. Go for that PR. Do it for just 5 pounds, just like 2.5s or 5s on each side of the bar, right? For your squat, bench, and deadlift. That will up your weight after a while, and you'll truly see, and also make sure that you're eating enough calories as well. Eat lots of protein, take creatine, eat plenty of calories. 2,000 calories is recommended for the average person, so what we're doing is not average. We're doing something that takes a lot of effort, and it's going to be very taxing on your body. Make sure to rest properly, get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I would recommend 8.5. Make sure you're going to bed at the same time every night, so your body can heal, because powerlifting is one of those sports that will definitely make you tired after a while. I'll do a future video on that as well, how to avoid burnout when it comes to powerlifting and martial arts training. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys all think down in the comment section, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let's all build a strong civilization by becoming strong individuals. Peace.